Hi, this is Katie. I'm going to show you how to do a block print today using styrofoam that you can get from like eggs or some kind of produce container or meat container. And you're going to have to be very careful with this. Get some help and wash this thing like a lot of times because it can be really bad if it's not clean. So I would wash it like 5 times before you do this with dish soap, let it dry. I don't know, it's important. And then you're going to cut out the bottom of it and use the flat bottom part of that to incise or make a line into it with a pencil, just a regular pencil. This is kind of like really old-fashioned wood cut or woodblock printmaking. Here's a really cool example I found recently. This is like a multiple page thing. I'm using a little bit different of techniques than we're going to be using a lot, but originally a lot of the block prints were made out of wood, so we're just being inspired by that. These puppies here, it's pretty cool. Nakamura Hochu, 1802. There are lots of really old examples of block printing. I would look some up online. First using acrylic paint, and then using a stamp pad. So acrylic paint is harder to get sometimes, but I know it's sometimes available at the dollar store. So you're applying the paint with a paintbrush, and the beauty of this block print style is that you can make like 100 of these or more, lots and lots of them over and over again. So this is really reproducible, and that was one of the amazing beginnings of printmaking. So here, I'll show you how to do it. Cut out the spot right here that doesn't have anything on it, because that's the only part I really want. So I'm going to very, very carefully do that. I'm going to be as careful as I can, and I might get some help doing this. See, I have this empty spot right here, and I'm going to take that part off too. So now I've got this piece of styrofoam. You can buy styrofoam sheets like this at art supply stores. Online for sure. There are packets of them, but I'm just going to use this because I have it. Before I commit to making my design on here, I'm going to figure out what that will be on another piece of paper. So I'm going to draw a little rectangle so I can kind of make a plan in there. And I'm thinking about a flower. So I think actually that I'd like it to be up and down instead. So that's okay. Then I'm going to draw a leaf and a flower. Something that it's important to remember is that the background, the part that you don't scratch with this pencil, will show up. The part that you do will be indented, and the ink or paint won't go onto it, and it won't transfer onto the paper. So once I'm happy with that, I can make an outline a little bit more so I can see exactly what I want to do. That looks great to me. Maybe do a couple of different leaf veins in there. That looks nice. Oh. Okay. When I do something, I need it to be in reverse if it's a word. Since it's a flower, I don't think that really matters. But if I did have something that looked a specific way, especially like a person's face or, you know, an animal that has certain markings, you might want to do that. You might want to reverse things around, because I'll show you this later on too. When we print it on the paper, it's going to be backwards. So this line over here is going to show up over here. I'll show you. So first thing I'm going to do is scratch into the surface with this pencil. It's just a sharp pencil. Doesn't have to be very sharp though, that's fine. Now anything that I put onto this is going to show up. So I want to be really careful not to even poke my fingernails into this stuff, because you're going to see that later on. So I'm being as careful as I can. I'm moving kind of slow. I'm getting my design down as carefully as I can. And I have my practice one right next to where I am, so I know what I want. It's much easier to get what you want if you know what it is. So I'm going to go back over that part because it's not super deep. It's okay. Awesome. Now I want to get some little grass pieces in there too. Great. Now normally for something like this, you would use special ink for printing, for block printing. It says block printing on it. There's lots of different kinds, so many different kinds, but I would normally use an oil-based one myself, but this is not like that at all. If it's oil-based, it won't dry very fast, but it's so messy and it gets everywhere, it's hard to clean up. So we're just using acrylic paint, and I'm using a pie pan as my palette. You can get acrylic paint at the dollar store. You do need to be very careful with it. It does not wash out of things very easily. And so normally I would use this, which is called a brayer, to roll the ink on to the surface so it's super, super flat. We're not going to worry about that right now. What we're going to do is paint with just a paintbrush, paint this acrylic paint onto the surface of this styrofoam. I'm trying to not get it in the cracks. That's part of my work here. But the way that we put the paper on, the paper's flat, and so everything that's lower down won't touch the paper. So we shouldn't be able to see those lines. That's the goal here. And so I'm just going to use printer paper. It's not the perfect paper for this, but that's okay. We're going to use it anyways. And so what I'm going to do is put my paper down onto this block, and then I'm going to rub on the back to transfer the ink or paint. Now, a lot of the time in my own work, I use this wooden spoon, which I've had for so many years. It's wonderful to transfer the ink onto the paper. I don't think it's totally necessary in this case. You probably can just press it with your hand. Also, look at that. And the beauty of block printing is that you can make a bunch of the same image. So you don't have to redraw your drawing over and over again. This is really fun if you're making cards. It's really fun if you're going to make a book and you want to make a bunch of them. You can just reapply your paint right away. Don't have to take it off of there. And press it again. I'm just going to use my hand this time. It's going to look so cool. Okay, let's take it off. And remember, I'm being very, very careful when I take it off. I don't want to touch this back on there again. That looks amazing. So if you noticed, I pressed harder on the first one, and so I have a little bit more of the ink that transferred over. So I'm going to do a couple more. So you know me, I like to mix my colors together. I made a light green, which is a tint. It's white plus green. So I put that on there. Okay, let's try it again. Awesome. That looks so cool. I could do this, 100 times with this block. I would get the same drawing over and over again. So I washed my block off pretty well. One cool thing about this type of printmaking, also, you can use stamp pads. I've got some stamp pads that are kind of dried out. It's not very exciting, but I'm going to press the ink from the stamp pads onto this block here and then test it out. But you could, if you had a big stamp pad, you could turn this over onto the stamp pad and press it down. That would be really cool. Just trying to get as much of that ink on there as I can. Let's use this piece of paper. Then I can show you something real fast too. pressing down, trying to transfer that ink over. I can already tell that's gonna look pretty cool. And that's just using a stamp pad. You can see that the image is reversed. So I copied this image exactly, but when it prints, it's reversed. So if you do letters or numbers or your name or a word or anything that needs to be right ways, you have to make sure to turn it around in your design. So if you want this to be your design and you really want it to end up looking like that, you're gonna have to first figure out what you want, and then figure out how to reverse it. What I normally do is just try to draw it backwards. And I think that might be the best way for you to figure out how to do this at the very beginning. Awesome, have fun.